I can't wait to welcome my brother and my two parents to this great country. It's a great moment for me and my family.
Cuando me separaron de mi mamá, me mandó a mí a unas diferentes familias, que cada familia que me mandaban me quedaba.
The Title X program was created in 1970 to provide affordable family planning and preventive health services to low-income individuals. It offers vital...
Say I go into a clinic and I say, what can you tell me about my options regarding an abortion? You are allowed to say exactly what?
Nothing. You're allowed to say it exists.
On average, people who go to for-profit institutions are much more likely to borrow more, and not to be able to repay their loans. It's pretty clear from the data.
Why are we punishing millions of people because they chose to get an education? That makes no sense.
We're back in Houston, talking to folks who live next to an oil refinery.
Do you know what's in the air?
No, to be honest, we don't. I don't. And I've been here my whole life.
The Trump administration is proposing a major rollback of a key climate policy that's guided federal environmental regulations for 16 years. The Environmental Protection Agency announced plans to
Particularly right now, we've taken that agency off board. And that's going to impact union members, union organizing campaigns. It's going to be critical to our industry.
When they're cutting Medicare, when they're cutting Medicaid, where they're trying to cut public education, where they've cut funding for all these infrastructure projects, an attack on our communities.
People know about deaths in police interactions, but no one really knows the extent of it.
In many cases, it's sort of unclear what role the police force played in it.
Healthier parts of the world have also come to look and act more like armies. Leading the way has been the United States.
Welcome to Cee Notes, where we cut through the noise, slice past the spin, and get right to the paper cuts that actually bleed. Forget the slogans, forget the distractions. Let's talk receipts. Let's talk policy. Let's talk power. Because the truth doesn't come with a trigger warning. It comes with consequences. This is Papercuts That Kill, a brief history of Trump derangement syndrome. Let's get into it. They call it Trump derangement syndrome, like people just woke up one day allergic to a man's tweets. Cute. But the real derangement? It's in the paper trail. Executive orders, memos, proclamations, ink on government letterhead that cut deeper than any late-night punchline. You don't need to imagine what authoritarian drift looks like. It's printed in the Federal Register. Let's start with borders. The so-called Muslim ban. First, it was 7 countries. Then it was reshuffled, reissued, and rebranded. But the message was always the same. Collective punishment by passport. Families split at airports, grandparents stranded, refugee doors slammed shut. DACA was almost killed off with a memo. And then came Remain in Mexico, forcing asylum seekers to wait in dangerous limbo across the border. These weren't tweets. These were policies, each one a small incision, together a hemorrhage. Now, health. Imagine walking into a clinic and finding the lights off, doors chained. That's what the gag rule did to Title X clinics, stripping reproductive care from low-income women. SNAP restrictions cut off food aid, protections for transgender patients in health programs? Rolled back. This isn't ideology in a vacuum. It's prescriptions unfilled, checkups missed, treatments denied. When people talk about small government, remember, sometimes it shows up as an empty chair in a waiting room. Next, schools. Title IX protections for survivors of sexual violence narrowed, Borrower defense for students ripped off by for-profit colleges? Weakened. Accountability for predatory programs? Gone. Each move said, in its own bureaucratic way, if you're scammed, silenced, or assaulted, you're on your own. Education is supposed to open doors. These policies quietly closed them. Then there's the air we breathe and the water we drink. The Clean Power Plan scrapped. Methane standards gutted. Clean Water Act jurisdiction shrunk. NEPA, the nation's bedrock environmental review law, hacked down to the bone. Even coal plants were given a 2-year hall pass to keep spewing toxins. These weren't just regulatory reforms. They were permissions to pollute, slips signed at the expense of frontline communities. The atmosphere doesn't read executive orders, but it sure feels them. What about work? Joint employer rules rewritten so corporations could dodge responsibility. Independent contractor tests rigged to favor Uber and Lyft over gig workers. Union elections slowed down, strikes defanged, protections chilled. All with the same outcome. More leverage to bosses, less power to workers. For all the talk about forgotten men and women, the fine print often read, forgotten, underpaid, and disposable. Finally, policing and power. Lafayette Square cleared with gas and shields so a photo op could happen. Federal agents in unmarked vans snatching protesters in Portland. Cities branded anarchist jurisdictions for daring to dissent. And most recently, executive orders seizing control of DC's police and National Guard. That's not law and order, that's federal muscle flexing on local democracy. So when you hear Trump derangement syndrome, ask yourself, derangement compared to what? Because the paper trail doesn't lie. These weren't tantrums on social media. They were systemic, surgical cuts. Paper cuts that stack together bleed out rights, protections, and lives. And here's the irony. The people yelling about derangement? They were too busy mocking critics to notice the slow unraveling of democracy in the fine print. Cee Notes.
Here is the harvest of a